Our final speaker this morning is Democratic Senator Creed Deeds of the 25th District. Among Senator Deeds' personal goals is to create a positive system within the Virginia mental health care community for those who may be a danger to others or to themselves. Senator Deeds is a passionate advocate of our parks, mental health, education, transportation, Attorney General candidate, and gubernatorial candidate. Will you please welcome Senator Creed Deeds?
Thanks very much. Thank you, Chuck, for that generous introduction. I'm impressed by this great crowd. I apologize if I'm a little slow with my talk. My oldest daughter lives and works in Oregon, in Salem, Oregon. And night before last, we got on a red eye from Portland, back and landed in Dulles yesterday morning about 8:30. So I'm still a little shell-shocked from all the travel, and I guess you add up the last 48 hours or so, I've had about 6 hours of sleep. So I might be a little slow. This session of the General Assembly is going to be interesting for lots of reasons. The politics make it even more interesting, but at the end of the day, you have to work with whoever's sent down there. Now I only get to vote for one senator and one delegate. I know that we're going to be, Ben and I are going to be down there. But whoever else is sent down there, we have an obligation to work with, whether they're Democrat or Republican. In 98, 99, those two sessions, the House of Delegates was 50-50. And we had equal numbers of Democrats and Republicans on the committees. And we managed to get some things done. This year we're going to get stuff done. It's going to be tough because our budget, even though it continues to grow, it's tight. We have a surplus this year. But lo and behold, our needs outweigh the surplus. Most of state spending is determined by formula. We know how many kids are in our schools. We know how many people are Medicaid recipients, and the formulas drive the cost up. Now, Ben is correct in that the cost of Medicaid is expanding rapidly, but I don't want you to think there are a lot of freeloaders out there that are on the Medicaid rolls. 70% of the Medicaid dollars in Virginia go to people who are also eligible for Medicare. They live in nursing homes. Our Medicaid rolls are expanding because we as a nation, we as an economy, have failed to plan for long-term plan for long-term care. And so about 29% of the dollars go to nearly 70% of the recipients. The 70% of the recipients are primarily mothers and children who are at the lower end of the economic spectrum. Medicaid expansion, if it occurs, will occur to people that fall within 138% of the federal poverty level. And you're talking about people, 75% of whom work full-time or live in a household with someone who works full-time. Primarily people that work in fast food joints and work at minimum wage and don't make enough money to buy health insurance. So Medicaid expansion is on the table in Virginia. We recognize that the gang that can't shoot straight in Washington, what they do, what they don't do, is anybody's guess. But we have to take a look at Medicaid expansion because, at least in the short term, it could give us the dollars we need to bridge into the future in a couple of areas. Now, there are a number of things that are going to be important in this year's budget discussion. I just want to highlight a few of them. One that I've been working very, very diligently on for the last few years, as Chuck pointed out, is mental health. We're trying to build a system where one doesn't exist today. We're trying to build a system where you can get care for mental health needs in every part of the state. And we need some bridge funding to get that done. Here's the problem. We spend about average. State spending is about average in Virginia for among the 50. That's not necessarily good, but it is what it is. About 50% of the dollars we spend on institutional care. The imbalance is that about 2% of the people who receive care in Virginia receive it in institutions. 98% receive care through the community service boards, primarily through the community. We're trying to right that balance. We're trying nationwide, the average is about 22% is spent on institutional care. We're trying to figure out how we can come closer to the national average, because we think once we do that, we will begin to right our ship with respect to building a proper system of care. We're making a number of changes. That's going to be one of our budget challenges, and frankly, for me, that's enough of a reason to support Medicaid expansion, because even if the bottom falls out, even if Congress unfunds the system, and I don't think that's going to happen, but even if that happens, that'll give us the extra money we need over the next few years to begin to transition our system from one of institutional care to community-based care. The second problem we've got is one of teacher pay. We have very much a feeder system of teachers in Virginia. In some parts of the country that we're pretty familiar with, teacher pay is relatively low. And teachers, in my own locality, lots of times teachers are hired from West Virginia, which is even lower. But teachers feed through our system from the Bath counties of the world into the Albemarle and Charlottesville that pay better, and the Henrico and Chesterfield that pay even better, into Prince William and Loudoun, which pay even better, and into Fairfax, which pays the best. But lo and behold, Montgomery County, Maryland, across the river from Fairfax, pays about $10,000 more on average. So we are... Excuse me?
You're right.
Yeah, I'm absolutely right. We have shortage in many areas, but we're seeing a teacher shortage in key parts of Virginia. It affects every locality, and that's going to be another driver in this year's budget, I think. How to find the right balance. We always, balance is a key word, but how to find the right balance to incentivize people to go into a very tough profession of teaching, and also be rewarded for it. We'll have mental health. We've got higher education. As Ben points out, I-81, lo and behold, some people discovered just this past year that there's a real problem on I-81. For those of us who live on that highway, and we found it very disturbing for years that you could be in the middle of Augusta County or Rockingham County or Shenandoah County, and all of a sudden you were on a parking lot, a la Interstate 66. On our little Interstate 81. Well, here's the reality. You cannot pave your way out of this problem. And there will never be enough money to build enough lanes to fix I-81. Years ago, 20 years ago, I guess, there was a plan in Congress to authorize 4 more lanes for Interstate 81. And that's a $2 or $3 billion plan. Part of the plan in Congress was to allow tolls on Interstate 81. Well, that doesn't make sense. That wasn't going to happen. And $2 billion, who in here wants to buy some great lakefront property in Millborough Springs? Because I can tell you all you want. And you've got as much chance of getting $2 billion from the General Assembly or the Congress to pave 81 as you do from buying great lakefront property in Millborough Springs. It's not going to happen. We're going to have to be creative when it comes to transportation. In 2013, when we passed the transportation bill, we pretty much tied our hands in this part of the state. We tied our hands, and it's going to be a struggle for us to come up with the resources that we have to make improvements that are necessary for economic growth in this part of Virginia. But we have to find a way. We have to find a solution if we can. Are we going to do it this session of the General Assembly? I don't know. But I think we have to start talking about it. We have to start talking about other parts of the state. One of the problems in the 2013 transportation package that I was worried about was we began to balkanize Virginia. When we allowed Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads to raise their own money, And we basically said to them, hold on guys, you need the improvements. We don't want to tax our constituents for your road improvements. When we allowed them to do that, we might have saved a nickel or two here. But the reality is we cannot afford to build the road improvements we want in this part of the state without funding from Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads. That's where all the people are. That's where all the traffic is. And when we allow them to take care of their own problems, they basically say, you take care of yours. And you know what? We can't do it. We don't have the resources to do it. So we created a problem that we're going to have a tough time getting around. But frankly, we have to find a way around it if we're going to make the improvements we need on Interstate 81 and other areas in this part of the state. This session is going to be a challenge, but it's like every other session. It's going to go by quick. This is what they call the long session, 60 days. And that's not very long by any stretch of the imagination. It includes weekends, so we'll be done before the middle of March. The challenge, one of the challenges will be, as Ben pointed out, we're in a new building this year, and the building is tough to get around in. It's smaller, and so it's going to be tougher during your visits. But still, as Ben said, I would encourage you to come down and see your General Assembly in action. Stay in touch with us. Make sure that we operate. I'm sure Ben does the same thing I do. We try to operate on the best information available, but you can't assume that we have the best information. If you know something or you think something differently about some issue that we're dealing with, let us know, because you might make a difference. You might change your mind. I thank you for the opportunity to be in the legislature. I thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. I look forward to your questions. Thank you.